I like the change that they're making to Inertia and Momentum. I think they're really good alternatives because changing Momentum to Exergy, you're getting a buff every time you use Vengeful Retreat or the Hunt, a 20-second buff, 6% increased damage. The buff itself is 20 seconds duration. Vengeful Retreat is 20 seconds duration, so you're essentially always going to have it. As long as you're pressing Vengeful Retreat, you will always have the buff. So that's like a locked-in, low-mover style of gameplay. No Fel Rushing required, no craziness, just Vengeful Retreat. Inertia works in a way where, you know how now when you press Immolation Aura, you get Unbound Chaos, and then when you spend Unbound Chaos, you get Inertia. Now it's going to be when you press the Hunt or press Vengeful Retreat, you have basically it's not Unbound Chaos, but it's essentially Unbound Chaos. So you're proccing it with those two abilities. The next Fel Rush or the next Felblade that you use will give you the Inertia buff. So it's good because you have two options. You don't necessarily have to Fel Rush. If there's a situation where a very sketchy boss mechanic that you can't just Fel Rush through, right? You could just press Felblade and then you get the buff and you're good. Then you do your damage, you blast. Now the difference is going to be Unbound Chaos is now going to buff Fel Rush and Felblade. So in big AoE situations, you're going to be encouraged to spend that Fel Rush to get Inertia, but in single target, you don't necessarily have to Fel Rush because you can just press Felblade, which is a single target ability, and if it's tuned properly, Felblade will probably do more damage on a single target enemy than a Fel Rush. So in my mind, it all makes perfect sense. It'll make future bosses like Nimue a lot less annoying, more Fel Rushing through mechanics and taking avoidable damage. Yep, 100%. As long as you can Vengeful Retreat, you're good. And Vengeful Retreat, it's a little less annoying to try to have to manage, especially like if you're on, say you're fighting on stairs, which is like my biggest pet peeve, right? But tanks love to do it. Tanks love to keep packs in the middle of the stairs. So in our current situation, if you wanted to get Inertia, you'd have to Fel Rush. So even if you're going up the stairs, you Fel Rush, you still move a lot. But say you wanted to proc it with Vengeful Retreat instead, or with Vengeful Retreat into Felblade, if you Vengeful Retreat up the stairs, you don't move. Then you could Felblade. Right? So you're getting Inertia without even having to move. Same if you're like fighting a boss near a wall. You know, sometimes Fel Rushing can just mess with your camera. It can get messy, you can get turned around, whatever. As long as you can just VR quickly, you're done. Or, you don't even have to Fel Rush into a wall. You should, if you have the ability to. But even just doing something like this, right, where you VR and then Felblade back in, you got Inertia. You're not accidentally pulling things ahead of you. You're not accidentally, you're not doing like the supercharged turbo giga ultra Fel Rush where you go 500 meters. You know, you're not Fel Rushing into swirlies or fire. As long as you can go like a couple yards behind you, pull yourself back in with Felblade, that's it. You got Inertia. So I think it's a really good change. The other thing, so if we do end up playing Eldrazi Reaver, we have two things that could work in our benefit. We have Unhindered Assault. Vengeful Retreat resets the cooldown of Felblade. So you will always have a Felblade to use to get back in after you press Vengeful Retreat. Or we have Evasive Action. Vengeful Retreat can be cast a second time within 3 seconds. So we haven't been able to get on PTR to test this yet, but potentially what you could do is do VR, Felblade, VR, Fel Rush into the Hunt, Fel Rush. We'll have to see how high Inertia can stack. Right now I think it caps out at 10 seconds, but you could do something like that. Or like I said, if you take Unhindered Assault, you'll just always have a Felblade available to use after you press Vengeful Retreat. So here, let's put Felblade on cooldown. We're going to use VR to get it back. So there's some cool synergy there. The VR, so I've seen people say that the VR likely won't proc anything. I think it will. I think it will because it procs Momentum. It doesn't proc Initiative, but it does proc Momentum. Yeah, see? Went up to 10. The only thing the second VR doesn't do is refreshes Initiative or your chance to proc Initiative. But it's been that way for a while. Like I remember being on Dragonflight Alpha because Eldrazi Reaver was the first hero talent tree that we got, right? And I remember standing right here all by myself, writing down notes and testing every single talent for like 8 hours. That was the one thing about evasive action. It's like it can proc momentum, but it doesn't proc anything else. I also really like it if VR and Fel Rush didn't lock each other out for a few seconds, but it's kind of whatever at this point. So one change that they could make that would just be good all around, I don't think anyone would have an issue with it, is if Felblade just always pulled you back in. For the duration of Vengeful Retreat, it should just always pull you in. Because right now, if you use it too quickly, it won't pull you in. If you're not far enough back, it won't pull you in. Or even if there's like some latency that you're dealing with, it won't trigger at the right time and it just won't pull you in. So when you use VR now, yeah, VR does it, I think it's a full, only for Fel Rush, which is strange. But I think that's meant to like give you that that buffer. It's meant to give you the buffer because you could technically like, if you could press it too quickly, you could VR and Fel Rush right away, and you'd end up just moving forward. So then it's completely negating the whole, I guess, function of VR taking you backwards. Or at least if there's the buffer where it gets put on cooldown on GCD, you'll always be back far enough that you can still Fel Rush forward and you're back to where you started. The trick with VR with Felblade actually, that I've found, when you say, okay, you're going to Vengeful Retreat back, the trick is to look at your Chaos Strike. As soon as you're out of range where your Chaos Strike can't hit the enemy, that's when your Felblade will pull you in. If you press it while you're still in range for Chaos Strike to hit, you will not get pulled in. They introduced the 0.5 GCD to prevent Fel Rush and place bugs? Maybe. That was before my time. Does this happen to you where you VR plus Felblade and Felblade doesn't take you back to the target? Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. If you use it too soon, if you're still in melee range, Felblade will not pull you back in. If you're too far, of course you're not in range to use Felblade, so it won't work. But like I said, the trick is to look at Chaos Strike. As soon as you're out of range and your Chaos Strike can't hit the enemy, that's when Felblade will pull you. If your Chaos Strike can still hit, it will not pull you. Have you ever VR Felblade only to get one shot by the frontal mob at the end of the bridge in Necrotic? Yes, that has happened to me. But on that boss, or on that trash mob, I tend to VR or Fel Rush into the walls on the side. I find that's a little bit safer. Because that way, you're not going out so far that Felblade has a chance to pull you in, right into its hitbox, and that'll get you killed by the cleave. Also, just, you know, don't press VR and Felblade when the cleave is happening. You should have something that can track when that ability is about to happen. Yeah.